And we're recording.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to start this meeting. Welcome everyone to the 2021 annual meeting of the Washington State Cheesemakers Association. I am your executive director, Courtney Johnson, and I'm happy to have you all with me this morning. It's an honor that so many people joined us in live time, and thank you to everybody who joins us after the fact. So yeah, it's great to see so many interested people, even though we can't all be together and eat cheese. So we're recording the meeting so that everybody can view it at a later time if they want. If they couldn't make it, and if you guys feel like you want to go back and watch the meeting over again, I'm going to ask that everybody keep themselves muted. That'll help with the video quality for the recording, so we don't have a lot of background noise. Later on, if we're having a discussion, obviously you can unmute yourself. You can use the raised hand function to raise your hand, or definitely feel free to use the chat function to make comments and questions during the meeting. You know, we'll try the best we can to have everybody feel included in this virtual format. I am also going to introduce the current board of directors. Actually first, because it looks like we're still waiting for Lindsay, I'm going to show everybody the agenda for the meeting today in case not everybody has had a chance to view it. So I'm going to bring that up. So this is our meeting agenda for today. As you can see, starting with a welcome from the executive director, and introduction to the board of directors, we're going to do a quick section of group introductions, where everybody introduces themselves and shares their best cheesy moment of 2020. We're going to have Lindsay's address if she can make it online. Kalijah will give the treasurer's report. We're going to have a little conversation about the FDA's proposed traceability regulations, some committee updates, a few general announcements. We're going to welcome newly elected board members. We have a wonderful guest speaker with us today. Then we'll have an open period for discussion and comments, and then we will wrap up and adjourn. We will try to be cognizant of your time and respectful, and make sure that we try to keep the meeting on time and flowing today. So that is that. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce the current board. Our president is Lindsay Slavin from Twin Sisters Creamery. Lindsay, are you there? Okay, I think she's still having technical difficulties. Our secretary is Carrie Hunter from Pine Stump Farms. Hi, Carrie. Our treasurer is Kalijah Paraska from Cheese Connection. Hi, Kalijah. And then we have Megan McKenna from Cherry Valley Dairy and Rachel Lucas from Ballinger Thriftway. So thank you to all of them for serving, volunteering on the board in 2020. So now we're going to switch to our group introductions. You know, this is really, this was Megan's idea. And since we can't have the table with the cheese and beverages at the butcher's table like we normally do, at least to engage everybody in conversation. So I'll call on everybody in the order they are on my screen, and you can just say who you are, what your creamery is or where you're coming from, and your best cheesy moment of 2020. You know, 2020 was a pretty bad year for a lot of reasons for many people, but hopefully cheese was the bright shining star in all of that crud. So, you know, whether it was a perfect bite that you had or a customer interaction or something else that just made you feel really great about cheese, the cheese community, we'd love to hear you share that. So I'll kick it off. I'm Courtney, Executive Director of WASCA. I also am the cheese specialist at the Burien PCC market. And my best cheesy moment of 2020 was actually competing in the Cheesemonger Invitational in San Francisco last January, the last time I was out of state, over a year ago, and winning second place. So that was my best cheesy moment. Rhonda, your turn.
I'm Rhonda Gothberg from Gothberg Farms. I am no longer actively making cheese. I'm just selling some of my aged cheese. It's stored at Walla Walla Cheese Company across the border in Oregon, and I license to cut, wrap, sell, and distribute out of there. So that's working out great. They're super nice people and they have a nice facility. So that's been a treat. And my cheesiest moment was letting cheese be my introduction to these amazing wineries around here. And I've got a foot in the door here and there. It hasn't been what it might have been if everything was open, but great restaurants, great wineries. I don't know what's next.
Great, thank you, Rhonda. Patrick.
Hey everybody, Patrick Black, aka Specialty Food Sherpa, and I have the privilege of working with 3 of the finest cheesemakers in Washington, all of whom are in Ferndale, as it turns out. So I work with Lindsay at Twin Sisters Creamery, and I work with Ferndale Farmstead, and I work with Apple Farms, and I function as their sales and marketing guy regionally and locally, nationally. And I am privileged to be on the membership committee. And my cheesiest moment, I got to say, I actually broke out my raclette machine in the fall, which I'd sort of forgotten about. And I have one of those semi-deluxe ones with little trays, 4 trays on each side, and then a grill on top. And the funnest part is I got to introduce it to my 4-year-old granddaughter. And it just reminded me, we had our whole family and it was super interactive, and she was really digging it. So gave me great hope for the future of our industry. So there you have it.
Excellent. That's always good to hear. Lucas, how about you?
I'm Lucas King, owner and cheesemaker at Evergreen Creamery. Cheesiest moment, it was just a good year for growth for us. There was a lot of support in our community, just a shift to support local farms, creameries, producers, things like that. And had a ton of people, wineries, businesses, restaurants, bakeries reach out to me. And then from that, we increased our production capacity about tenfold over this year. So that was great.
Fantastic. Glad to hear that. John?
Hello, I'm John Haugen, the WSU Creamery Manager, and I guess we had a pretty good year, surprisingly. We started off the year making 8 batches of cheese a week, and we had just gotten to that point by picking up milk from both WSU and University of Idaho. And then COVID happened and the university said, if you can't stay 6 feet apart, we're going to shut you down. So we're like, whoa. So we got backed off. We were making 5 batches of cheese a week to start with. And now we're back up to 7, and we should be back to 8 pretty soon in 2021. But we also had made more cheese in 2019, and our cheese ages for a year before we sell it. So my best moment of the year was making it into December with still having cheese inventory to sell to customers, because in the previous years we hadn't, and we sold all the cheese that we made in 2019. So it ended up being a surprisingly good year, but it's because we sell cheese online. The over-the-counter store definitely had lower sales this year, but still the local people enjoyed coming into Ferdinand still. So
Excellent. That's great. Gigi, how about you?
Yeah, well, I'll just say I am Gigi Berardi, and of Island Croft and 3 Sheep Creamery. And I'm going to give my cheesiest moment as the last slide in my presentation today.
That's fair. We can wait for that. Thank you. Valerie.
Hi, I'm Valerie. I'm a marketing coordinator for Dairy Connection. I've been with the company a little over 11 years. I'm actually not here alone. I'm here with our customer service manager. We're just social distanced. Melissa. Our cheesiest moment, I guess, last year, we had a little fundraiser. We started with cheese-themed masks, all proceeds to benefit the local food bank. It's been really popular. We're getting great support from cheesemakers, cheesemongers. I brought one just to show you guys. Feeling nutty. So we have those. It's been really fun. We're getting great support for it, and we're able to contribute to the local food bank. So it's been fun.
Awesome. Megan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Megan McKenna from Cherry Valley Dairy, and slowly starting my own farmstead creamery up in Cedar Woolley Cheese Co. I think my best cheesy moment was when we first started reaching out to folks saying, hey, please support local cheese at the beginning of COVID. And I had so many people from all over the country get in touch and say, hey, how can I support you guys? Can I buy some cheese? And many actually followed through. So it felt really good to have that rush of support and recognition that, oh yeah, local food is something we need to help preserve. So bright spot.
Very excellent. Janae.
Hey everyone, Janae, aka the Mobile Monger. And I would say that my cheesiest moment was definitely at CMI watching Courtney get second place. That was pretty amazing. And then also right as the pandemic hit and I was supposed to be at Neal's Yard Dairy doing an internship, which I couldn't go to. My husband and I went camping and we did a little campfire raclette. And it was the perfect thing. Almost made up for not being in London. Almost.
Raclette seems to have a place in 2020 for sure. Rachel. Oh, there you go.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm Rachel. I am the cheese buyer at the Ballinger Thriftway in Shoreline, and pretty much everything I do involves cheese. So my life is monumentally cheesy. I'm trying to think of probably the best thing cheese-wise that's happened to me this year is that I got onto the WASCA board of directors, and I've been just doing a lot of work trying to help promote our Cheesemakers, and it's been really rewarding and a lot of fun. So that's probably the best, cheesiest thing that's happened this year, but it's just been cheese nonstop. So anyway, nice to meet you all.
Cheese nonstop is how it should be. Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Gigo from Harmony Fields, and we're a small sheep creamery in Bow in the Skagit Valley. I guess cheesy wise, I guess this is me being a cheesy mom, but this was our first cheese season without any childcare and a 5 and a 3-year-old. And so I'm just proud of us for actually being able to have a good farm season, and it was a good season. And I did have this one customer, a Greek woman, who told me that our feta made her cry and reminded her of her childhood. So I was very touched by that.
Yeah, that's excellent. Carrie.
Am I unmuted now? I'm Carrie Hunter from Pine Stump Farms. We have a farmstead goat dairy, and I do both aged and pasteurized cheeses and yogurt, as well as kefir. My growing season is all cheese, and I was very pleased this year that our farmers markets were able to start in May, as they generally do. And we had a very good year. For me personally, my best cheese, which is Camembert, has come out very well this year and has just sold right along. And every day is cheese day for me, because every evening I have a cheese plate of my variety of cheeses. So every day is a cheese day. Thank you.
Thank you. That's excellent. Kalijah. Oh, you're muted, Kalijah. There we go.
Can you hear? Hello, my name's Hello, my name is Kalijah Praska with the Cheese Connection. I'm also the treasurer for WASCA. because we serve many clients nationwide and import most of our products from New Zealand and France. We had cheesy moments, as I say, all over the world this year. The largest one was trying to work with the import system with customs essentially being down for about 6 to 8 weeks. So we had the vendors who would typically compete against each other in other countries for getting cheese cultures and rent it to the US that actually partnered together to rent airplanes coming out of Europe to be able to bring those products to the US for the clients. So those clients could still make their cheese throughout the year. It was interesting to watch how those competing companies actually developed partnerships during that time to meet all the cheesemakers' needs nationwide. So that was an experience that I had never been through before, but it was amazing to be involved in that process.
Very cool. Thanks, Kalijah. Lynn?
Hi, I'm Lynn Swanson from Glendale Shepherd on Whidbey Island. And our best moment was really following the worst moment, which was the shutdown of all the farmers markets we depend on. And when they opened a month later, definitely was the saving moment of our year.
Yeah, definitely. Lori?
Hi there, I'm Lori Neal, Laurel's Crown. COVID put a hitch in our giddy up. We're still trying to get up and get going over in Chelan. We're a 100% grass-fed, will be organic Jersey cows. My cheesiest moment, since I haven't been able to make anything, has been just the number of people that keep saying, we are so looking forward to you getting started. And the people who yell cow when they drive by my farm. So
That's excellent. Lindsay?
Hi, everyone. I am so sorry that I cannot get my camera to work. My husband's actually an IT professional and he can't resolve the problem either. So we think we have a virus on my computer. So I don't know if you're seeing my name or a picture, but I can see all your smiling faces and I just love seeing so many of the familiar ones. Like look at Mr. Bill Stevenson down there. That's awesome. So I am waving at everybody. My cheesiest moment was we had our 5th year anniversary at the creamery in August. And that's such a milestone for small businesses and new businesses. And I was thrilled to meet that milestone. And I'm happy that we are here and going strong and have success with an online store now. And we were able to launch a new product. So I'm just really excited that we still are moving forward. Thanks, Courtney.
Yeah, thank you. Jeff?
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Jeff Steele. I'm the Partnership Development Director for the Dairy Farmers of Washington. My cheesiest moment this past year was working with Patrick Bleck. We did an artisan cheese promotion for June Dairy Month at all the Safeway Albertson stores in Washington State and all the Cars stores in Alaska. And we worked with Ferndale Farmstead, Beechers, and who else? Oh, Apple Farms. So I think we sold in the neighborhood of maybe 15,000 pounds of incremental product during the promotion period. So at a time when food service sales were dropping pretty dramatically. So, you know, that was really gratifying. And I appreciate all the help and all the expertise Patrick brings to everything that we do at the Dairy Farmers of Washington. He's a great partner.
Nice. Bree?
Hi, I'm Bree Capel, also with the Dairy Farmers of Washington. I'm a registered dietitian, and my cheesiest moment was making some progress in perfecting my cast iron skillet nacho recipe. So that was pretty exciting for me.
It sounds exciting. Bill?
Jeff, I'd like to know how much Patrick had to pay you because I'll up the ante on that. That was a great ode to Patrick, who I worked with for many years and love dearly. I work for DPI Specialty Foods. I'm a category director there, and I've been there for a long time now. One of my favorite cheesy endeavors for this last year was connecting with a colleague that I'd sort of lost touch with, and she runs a sort of a sensory app-based technology called Draft Lab that's been helping the brewing industry kind of dial in flavors at a real sort of an economical level. So we partnered on developing a cheese lexicon so that you can utilize the app technology that she's got available to help with your sensory evaluation of cheese. So that was kind of a side project for 2020. That was a lot of fun.
Very cool. Drake?
Yeah, Drake Martin, Dairy Farmers of Washington, and community engagement manager. I'm gonna piggyback my cheesiest moment off of Jeff Steele. The cheese promotion, going around to a lot of the grocery stores and taking pictures of all the promotion signs and just seeing all the local cheeses that are making its way into the retail sector, especially in my local store, Hagen in Woodinville. I start to see more and more local cheeses. So it's it's nice to say I know those cheesemakers. So
Nice. I like to hear that. Lisa.
Hi, Lisa Miyashita with Washington Arts and Cheesemakers Festival. My cheesiest moment, well, unfortunately, 2020 was a lot like rather lack of cheesy moments. I missed doing the festival and visiting all the cheesemakers distributing cheese maps. But something different that I tried last year was I actually ordered cheese online quite many times. And it was great to receive packages full of delicious cheese from Cheesemakers. I think I ordered from Carrie Pine Stump and Lucas Evergreen and a couple of other cheesemakers, and I also did like online ordering and picked up cheeses at the farm. I saw Jessica at Harmony Field. So it was different, but those were my cheesy moments of 2020.
Thank you. And finally, Gorby.
Hi, my name's Gorby Just. I'm with Mountain Lodge Farm, and I'm also here with my assistant cheesemaker, Jeff Hartman.
Hi everybody.
I would say my best cheesy moment is probably after market started up again, and some of our weekly customers who would just be there every week, through all the restrictions and doing all the distancing, but still we're like, no, we have to come and get your cheese. Like, we need this every week. So that is always nice to hear.
And I'd say that my cheese moment of the year was us being able to get some experimentation going. I know that this has been a year of constraint for a lot of people, but it's been really nice to be able to have us, have that moment of waiting and kind of anticipation is kind of half the fun sometimes. So getting some big wheels of cheese of our Wonderland into sherry was really nice, and we're still going to see how that turns out.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you everybody for your willingness to talk on camera and share your cheesy moments of last year. It's really good to hear from everybody and a lot of nice things light in the darkness of 2020. So thank you all for that. Now I'm going to introduce Lindsay Slavin, our outgoing president of the board of directors, who's going to give an address. So Lindsay.
Thanks, Courtney. And thanks again, everyone, for coming today. I really appreciate it. And I first wanted to start by letting the board of directors know what a pleasure it's been to volunteer with you for the past 3 years, both the current board of directors and the previous board members that I've had the opportunity to work with. It's such an amazing group of volunteers that are truly passionate about the cheesemaking industry and are dedicated to supporting and helping our community grow and thrive. Kalijah is an amazing treasurer and such an asset to the board. Carrie Hunter, as secretary, has such experience and is such an asset as well. The board members are active on committees and chair committees and so involved. It's just when you get to work with this level of people and see their commitment as volunteers, it's truly amazing. I just want to go back to the start of 2020. WASCA got off to a great start in 2020, even though we had to reschedule that membership meeting due to the crazy snowstorms. We were able to hold it in January. We shared plans at that time that we were going to pursue hiring a new executive director. We had educational opportunities lined up. We were working on industry collaborations, and other events were in the works for the year. And we were going to hold our first ever Meet the Cheesemaker event at 21 Acres in Woodinville in the spring. And then COVID hit, and we all went through that shutdown together with uncertainty and fear about our own health, our families, our businesses. And for myself personally, I felt very isolated during that time. It became very clear at that time that the importance of an association like WASCA to its members. Everything kind of shifted, and the board quickly got together. We immediately created our Buy Washington Local campaign. And I want to thank Lynn at Glendale Shepherd for being our face on that campaign. And we really appreciate you helping us with that. We rallied together with our members and retailers and industry partners to bring awareness and create opportunities for cheesemakers. We effectively communicated important updates about COVID-19 restrictions, farmers markets opening, grant information. We even created or found opportunities like free membership to ACS to all guild members. And we helped create new relationships between cheesemakers and retailers like Hagen and distributors like the Puget Sound Food Hub. And we also shared our own members' stories of resilience, creativity, hope, new ideas. Members were creating CSAs and online stores. They were getting creative with shipping options like Lisa mentioned. Like the success at Fintello Farmstead Creamery of creating a farmer's market on their own farm. And new cheeses were still being developed and launched. It was just so inspiring to see all of us pivot, you know, that key word from 2020, as we found ways to keep our businesses going. And sharing those stories was very inspirational then and now. Even during COVID-19, or maybe due to COVID-19, the board became even more determined than ever to strengthen WASCA. We pursued hiring Courtney Johnson as executive director, which is really a turning point in a young, all-volunteer nonprofit association. It's when your initiatives and goals can really start to be executed, and Courtney will have the opportunity to cover all of those details with you today. We filled an open appointed board position and welcomed Rachel Lucas to the board. Rachel is an industry professional, cheesemonger, ACS certified CCP and CCSE, which I had to learn was certified cheese sensory evaluator, as well as a wine specialist and a writer. And she writes cheese related works that are published in Taste Washington Travel magazine every few weeks. Rachel is now the chair of the marketing committee and is responsible for the website and our social media presence on Instagram and Facebook. And if you haven't gone to the website lately, you really need to check it out. There's a monthly member spotlight. there's a resource tab that was just added that's just full of information that Megan McKenna created from our education committee. There's a new classified tab that Courtney added as a buy and sell page for cheesemakers and their equipment. And we're working on getting that one added too. There's lots of activity going on now. If you're not following Washington Cheesemakers on Instagram or Facebook, you can see all the activity that's going on. WASCA also gained national attention and now meets monthly with the ACS and all other guild leaders in the nation, sharing ideas. We're building relationships. We're working on possible future collaborations. I just want to say that I'm so thankful to have had this opportunity to serve on the board. And I truly believe in the importance of WASCA. As we start this new year and leave 2020 behind, it does look like we may still have a long road to recovery in front of us. But you have an amazing group of industry professionals that are willing to volunteer and lead this association, with 3 incredible candidates joining the board this year. I'm excited to stay on and help in committees in any way anyone requests. I am very proud to be a member of WASCA. But I will say one of the largest benefits that I've gained by being a member is a true sense of community within our industry, with fellow cheesemakers, passionate industry professionals like cheesemongers, retailers, distributors, the cheese enthusiasts. I mean, the state of Washington has over 7 million people living here, and there are only just over 50 licensed cheesemaking operations. I mean, that's just a handful of people, of cheesemakers, that do what we do. I think it's an amazing community, and I'm very proud to say that I'm a Washington State cheesemaker. And I'm also, with that, I'm very proud and excited to introduce Megan McKenna as our incoming 2021 president of WASCA, and welcome her to her new role. So with that, I just sincerely thank everybody and welcome Megan.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. And I think I speak for everyone when I say thank you for all the work that you've done this year. You've done such an incredible job leading this group through really challenging times. And I really appreciate your leadership and mentorship. And I look forward to working with this fantastic team. Courtney Johnson is just doing such a wonderful job as executive director, and there are some wonderful new people on the board that I look forward to working with. And then we're here for the membership. So please get in touch with any ideas you have or needs that can be met by WASCA. And it should be a better year than last year, hopefully. So thank you. I'm really excited.
All right, thanks so much, Megan and Lindsay both. So exciting to have Megan in the president role. You know, we appreciate everything Lindsay's done. But look forward to having her be involved going forward. I also just popped the email address for WASCA into the chat in case anybody wants to reach out with anything. Don't hesitate to send us an email. It's washingtoncheese@gmail.com. So now I'm going to have Kalijah come on for the treasurer's report. So Kalijah.
Can you hear me, Courtney?
Yes.
Okay, this is Kalijah Praska. At the beginning of the year of 2020, the association received the majority of the membership at the meeting at the end of January. And then the meeting was completed, and right about the end of February, we noticed that with the pandemic that came into effect at that point, the membership, which typically we see some more membership fees coming throughout the year, pretty much did not occur for the reasons that we all know. But amazingly enough, WASCA held pretty strong throughout the end of the year. And by December 31st of 2020, the association had $32,403.63. Typically in a year, the association collects somewhere around $10,000 to $12,000 of association membership fees. And so far this year through yesterday, the association had collected $5,600. So the association does have a little bit more to go this year to try to bring that revenue back up in full where it was historically. Also, there's 2 reports that need to be filed on an annual basis. One is with the Association for the State of Washington to renew the WASCA membership as a nonprofit organization, as well as what's called the e-card Form 990 with the Internal Revenue Service. All of those regulatory and governmental requirements were met on time within year 2020. So as of right now, WASCA is in compliance with all their filings, and we continue to watch and reconcile the checking account on a monthly basis. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kalijah. Now I'm going to turn it over to Megan McKenna again. Megan's going to lead us into a discussion about the FDA's proposed traceability regulations, which will likely affect many of the cheesemakers in our state. So Megan?
Yes, so there is a new rule as part of FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act, and this is the rule for food traceability. And it's trying to sort of standardize the approach to traceability. And what it does is really focus on some risk-based modeling for food tracing. And of course, cheeses have popped onto their radar as a high-risk food item. And cheeses, other than hard cheeses, are the foods in question that would relate to us. And so that's any cheese that's going to be below the 39% moisture. So that's most of our cheeses that would be subject to this ruling. And there are some new, as with all of our HACCP and HARP-C plans, there are some new acronyms we need to learn, like CTEs, critical tracking events, which are growing, receiving, creation, transforming, and shipping. And then also some key data elements, KDEs. And that would be the items that we need to track through these events, like lot codes and quantity, units of measure, date, time, place of creation. And a lot of these things, looking at this proposed rule, are things that we're already doing with our HACCP and HARP-C plans. One of the things that seemed new to my eye, and I just noticed that Mark Bates popped onto our screen, so I'm sure he might have some additions to this perhaps. But some additional requirements that seemed new are that the FDA needs to have access to our records within 24 hours. And then also, if the records are requested during a break or other event, they need to be presented in electronically searchable spreadsheet. So that seemed to be a new item that caught my attention. And I know quite a few of us are in the paper clipboard binder stage of record keeping. So this might be something to look into. There are a few exceptions, proposed exemptions. And one option for that is with 10 or fewer full-time employees. And then the second is 10 or fewer full-time employees would be exempt from that searchable spreadsheet item. And then the third proposed rule exemption would be farms that are selling directly to consumers. So farmers markets, CSAs, roadside farm stands, and then internet sales, as long as the packaging has no perforations and stays intact to the final consumer. However, any product that you would sell to a distributor would be subject to this new rule. So that's sort of a brief summary. The comment period is open right now for FDA. I know the American Cheese Society is submitting some notes. So my question would be, I will send out all of this information, and actually the FDA did a pretty good job of doing some handy dandy, this is kind of hard to see, but some handy dandy little PowerPoint slides that help you navigate what product of yours is subject to this rule. So I'll send all that out and everyone can go over it. And if you have any comments or anyone on the call here has a comment, then we can add this and submit something as a group to the FDA. So, and also compliance would be 2 years after the rule is made official. So we have some time to work on this. When I spoke with WSDA, my inspector and someone else, they don't really have any information yet. They're waiting for the FDA final rule. So that's all I have.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any comments that they'd like to add to this discussion. Bill?
Well, I'm thrilled that this was on the agenda. At DPI, we're caught wind of the rule. It's in the public domain, but I've raised the question of whether anybody's been kind of tracking it, and mostly that question's been met with a mute response. So I'm thrilled that you guys are talking about it. We are looking at it. I mean, obviously we're in the supply chain, but we're also a processor because we cut and wrap. Just a little extra background from what I've read. The guy at FDA that's kind of driving this proposed rule is Frank Yanis, and he's a former Walmart exec, and he used at Walmart a specific technology called blockchain technology to help improve traceability, track and trace at Walmart. So the rule largely seems based on the way that technology works. So it doesn't mandate the technology, but if you start to investigate this blockchain technology for supply chain, you'll find that it's sort of a useful tool to help you manage what this traceability rule asks you to do. So we're sort of engaging in a proof of concept and looking at that technology as a means of managing the traceability going forward. Just FYI.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Does anyone else want to add anything to this discussion while we're in the thick of it? Rachel?
Remember that, well, Courtney, I don't know if you were there, but the last meeting that we had before the pandemic happened, and that gal, I don't remember her name, they brought us that whole paperwork on how to do the FDA traceability thing, right? That's the same thing, right? Did I hallucinate that?
No, I think, Megan, do you remember this from, I think this was last year's January member meeting. I wasn't there, but.
Yeah, it was regarding the recall preparedness. So I think, that fits with what we're talking.
Okay. I think this might just be more advanced. All right, anyone else? And you can always pop a question in or comment down into the chat field too if something comes up later and we can try to address it. All right, well, thank you. We are definitely watching this and we'll provide comments if everybody wants us to. I'm also engaged with the ACS and they're providing comments through their regulatory committee. So we want to make sure that everybody's voices are heard in this conversation, especially the smallest players. So definitely if you have something, feel free to reach out. All right, now we're going to move on with some committee updates. One way that WASCA serves its members throughout the year is by having 5 dedicated committees working on the behalf of the membership. So each of our 5 committee chairs is going to give a brief update about kind of some accomplishments of the committee in 2020 and where we're looking in 2021. I'm going to start with our newest committee, which is the Grants Committee. The Grants Committee was conceptualized last year, I believe. Because of COVID, we were kind of thrown off of our axis and didn't get to apply for any grants in the last year, but this year we definitely are going to do that. The goal is to secure some external funding for WASCA so that we can support programs. We've been watching some of the other cheese guilds around the country and how they've been funding their efforts and their endeavors to serve their cheesemakers. Oregon's Cheese Guild is a great example. They received some ag funding that is paying for a salary for their executive director. It's been allowing them to do big events. Normally they do the wedge. And this past year they did the virtual wedge, which they did it online, which involved a lot of fulfillment and logistics and getting cheese into the hands of people. Which is a huge undertaking. So they've been able to do some really big events like that to serve their members. And, you know, they're actually a smaller guild than we are. So I think we could do a lot if we can get some extra funding. We're going to be working on that pretty quickly here. Grant season is usually early in the year. So anyone who wants to join the grants committee, definitely reach out to me. And we will get you on board to help us secure some funding. And also, you know, if you're interested in grant writing and other things, it would be good experience to go through it and learn how to do it. Now, Megan is going to give an update on the Education and Regulations Committee.
Probably the biggest thing we've added this year was the new tab on the website for resources. And there, we're trying to collect all available online classes and hopefully soon enough physical classes through WSU Extension, through the NABC, the Ag Business Center, and whatever else seems pertinent to the Cheesemaker members, we're going to try to post. So if you keep that page on your radar and keep checking that for classes. Right now, there's some great ones about value-added grants. There's also some QuickBooks classes coming up. So a couple of things that would be of interest on that website, and also some just some resources about food safety plans and business plans, things like that on that tab. And then going forward for next year or this year, we're looking to do peer-to-peer education classes, and Lindsay volunteered to do one to help those of us who are starting to prepare for third-party audits. So she's going to help us with that. So we'll get those going. And if anybody has an area of expertise they'd like to work on with the rest of the membership, that would be great. We'd love to hear that. Additionally, if anybody needs education or some training in a particular subject, please let us know, because we want to make sure that we're fulfilling those needs best we can. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Megan. Now, Kalijah will give an update on the buying committee.
So during 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, before the pandemic began, we actually negotiated a contract with Gravity Payments located in Seattle, so that for those cheesemakers who actually accept credit cards for payment, they were willing to offer a discounted rate with a flat fee per credit card processing to go ahead and help you not have credit card processing fees as high as you would typically have them with a traditional credit card processor. That actual fee, like in our company perspective, was as low as 2% on the credit cards with a flat 20% processing fee, where most credit card processors are 2.4 up to 3% with a flat fee. I did talk to them a few days ago. They did indicate that even though we negotiated that contract with them in January and they became a paying member of WASCA, they contributed $500. They haven't had anybody else come to them yet for looking at to see if they could get a better cost on the cost of processing the credit cards. They are aware of the fact that the pandemic was so severe for most companies that that really wasn't their focus in 2020. So they are hoping in 2021, some of the cheesemakers will come forward to them to let them quote on their business. I also want to remind everyone that Lindsay had negotiated a contract with AMS Labeling, which can actually digitally print your labels without charging plate charges. And they can actually run small lots of your labels at a very affordable price versus having to purchase large amounts of labels. We also this last year sanitary design systems with Neville McNaughton. They joined the association and also contributed a $500 fee. And as always, Neville's were willing to work with any of your creameries, regardless of how small you are, to make sure you have state-of-the-art equipment at a price that you can afford. So he's committed to continue to support the Washington Cheesemakers. Up until September 30th of this last year, for a 6-month period, our company, the Cheese Connection, actually offered to all cheesemakers that were clients of ours a flat guaranteed discount on their products, regardless of the volume amount that was bought. So what we ended up doing is essentially sharing the small profit margin we have back with all the cheesemakers, regardless of their size, to try to help them continue to exist. Now that we're in 2021, we're looking to partner with other organizations to bring additional discounts to the table. But at this point, a lot of them are kind of determining, is that something they want to do in 2021, because they looked at what their revenue was during 2020, and they had a great financial impact like a lot of other organizations. So while we continue to reach out and look for more partners, I'm finding it a little bit more tougher this year as the pandemic continues into the second year. But that's one of our initiatives for this year, so I'll continue to work on that. Are there any questions?
Rachel.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say I did switch to AMS labels and they're awesome. They're so fast. They're way faster. I was using the one in Capitol Hill, so I was still using a local place, but they're way faster even than them. So that's nice. And then when we talk about vendors that maybe we could do bulk discounts with, I don't know if this would be considered bulk, but I know a lot of us are thinking about like, how else can we bring revenue in? And Matthew and I are looking at swag, and we're trying to find like a t-shirt vendor that'll print locally and like use eco inks and all that stuff. So I don't know, maybe others of us are also looking at making swag. So maybe we'd have buying power in that sort of thing.
That's great, Rachel. I'll go ahead and I'll reach out to some different organizations I'm aware of, and I'll see what they are able to do for the association. So thank you for that recommendation. That's a great one.
Thank you for all the work you do.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, and just another addition to that, it's not really a discount, but I was able to negotiate with the Northwest Editors Guild this year a collection of their independent editors who are interested in working with WASCA members to help them with their marketing materials, whether that be website copy or ads, or you know, if they want to do a blog on their website or whatever, for copywriting, copy editing and proofreading things, just to make sure that everybody has nice professional things, especially now when everybody's looking at websites more than ever. We weren't able to negotiate discounts because they are all independent and have different rates, but they did say, this group of people specifically, that they wanted to work with our cheesemakers and the cheese community. So that's something else that we have this year that's not really buying power, but it's an option that's available to help everybody out. So thank you, Kalijah. Next, Rachel Lucas is going to give an update on the marketing committee.
Hello. So the marketing committee right now is kind of a, can you hear me? Okay, it's kind of a one-woman show. I'm just basically trying to make as many people as I can aware of our fabulous cheesemakers here in Washington. So I've been, as Lindsay said, doing the social media and working on the website and featuring a different cheesemaker every month. We're going into our 4th month. So we basically just started at 12 o'clock and we're going counterclockwise. So everybody will eventually get a feature. And if there's any, information that you want, conveyed to the public, you can always email me. I can give you my email. We're trying to install a slideshow on the website with all of our cheesemakers. And so if you have any photos that you want to be on the website, Here, let me just put in my email for you right now. And you can just reach out. We're just trying to fill up the website with as much cool stuff as possible, so people will keep wanting to just refer back to it regularly. So here's my email. There it is. And yeah, so that's what I'm working on. I'm just trying to educate myself so I can educate the masses about our cheesemakers, and that's it.
All right, thanks, Rachel. Rachel Taylor Teller said that she's waiting for you to start a TikTok account for WASCA. So
Okay, I'll do my best.
We did just start a YouTube account too, which we'll be posting the recording from this video too. So maybe over time we can also come up with some other content to put on YouTube other than meetings. So thanks, Rachel. And finally, we will have Patrick give the membership committee update.
Thank you, Courtney. Really quickly, and I think Elijah, you mentioned this, that we're a little bit behind the 8 ball where we normally would be this time of year in terms of our membership payment and so forth, but that's obviously understood given the pandemic. So I did post the Square site for any cheesemakers or business folks or enthusiasts that would like to renew their membership. We're about halfway where we should be at this point compared to last year, and we're about half, when this has been traditionally the case, halfway with respect to cheesemakers. So that's one of our focuses has been this last year, trying to get as many cheesemakers as we can signed up. Obviously, they have the most vested interest in many respects with the organization. So I would just encourage any cheesemakers out there that know other cheesemakers that are not currently members to please encourage them to reach out and join our group. We've been working, and I want to shout out again to Courtney. She's been instrumental in helping drive the membership committee, and along with Megan and Shannon Strom from QFC. And we've all been trying our best to put things forward in terms of benefits that make sense and are engaging and compelling to all levels of membership. The cheesemakers, obviously, number one. And just a reminder that that membership is on a sliding scale depending on the level of business that you do. But we've also focused in on the enthusiasts and have a little bit of a more benefit for them. And I think the other piece that's important to focus in on, and again, I would just encourage anybody that has connections to reach out to me, but I think the business community has historically not been as involved as we'd like them to be. Some have and some have not. And I'm thinking again of the retailers that we all depend on out there, farmers markets, retailers that would benefit from joining our association. They were very instrumental in helping lift a lot of the volume that had disappeared from the food service side of things. So some of you know Hagen's, for example, did an absolute BOGO for all cheesemakers, which was just unprecedented really in the country. And they did not charge a single thing to any cheesemaker to participate. So, and that got some national press, which I think was great. And as Courtney said, it all takes resources to elevate what we're trying to do, which is, give our cheesemakers the absolute best venue that they possibly can have in our neck of the woods and elsewhere. So yeah, that's it. The brochure is coming. In the brochure, we're hoping to do some beta testing with a few key retailers to again gain traction with enthusiasts. And I would just encourage you, all of us, to, if you haven't already, please renew your membership. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Patrick, and thanks everyone for the committee updates. And I'd also like to remind everybody that all of our members are welcome to volunteer on any of the committees. to help serve the membership and advance our programming and our goals for the year. We definitely need some more members on the marketing, education, and maybe also the buying committee. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, or grants or membership, don't hesitate to reach out, and we would be happy to have your help. You know, just as all of us together can accomplish more with WASCA in the committees, we can also accomplish more when we have more hands and eyes. That said, I have a couple of general announcements as we move into the second half of the meeting. So we may have read in the December newsletter that we've been working on some enhanced member benefits for 2021. So I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek of the first of those. We're getting ready to unveil our first ever Washington Cheese Trail map. We're currently in the proofreading stage, so there are some typos on it, and all of the Cheesemaker members next week are going to get a link to proofread their contact information on it to make sure that it's correct. So I'm just going to pop that up into the screen share real quick. So this is the inside of our cheese map. Again, just a sneak peek. It is focused on all of the licensed cheesemaker members of WASCA, but also shows where all of the licensed cheesemakers in the state are. And then it's broken into different cheese trails that you can follow in the north, south, east, and west of the state. So we will be excited to bring that to print later, probably next month. We're also going to have an online version that people can go and click on and go to your website, go to the WASCA website, and, you know, as people start traveling again, they can use it as a travel tool or as a reference. You know, I knew there was a creamery near me. Where is that at? So we are excited to be bringing that option out, and all of our members will get a copy of that map when it does go to print, and we'll also have a limited run of copies that are going out to local retailers that they can give out to shoppers to get them excited about Washington cheese and let them know about all of the wonderful creameries that we have in our state. Another benefit that we're bringing out this year is a thank you to everybody who renewed in 2021. After all of the hardships of 2020, is we printed a WASCA logo cooler bag. So it's a blue bag that has WASCA's logo on it. It is big enough to hold a lot of cheese and cheese accompaniments. So I will be excited to start mailing these out to everybody with their maps. So if you haven't renewed yet, now's a good time to do that so you can get your hands on this and show your Washington cheese pride when you go to the grocery store or go hiking or, you know, wherever you go. So we're excited to be bringing those benefits out. We also, Rachel mentioned a lot of the updates that we've made on the website. We're definitely trying to use that more as a communication tool for our members and for the general public. So definitely, if anybody wins an award, has any press, let us know. We have a news and press area on the website, and we'd be happy to help you toot your own horn. Right now, we need to get the Good Food Award winners up there. We just had 3 cheesemakers win Good Food Awards. All of the Northern Region cheese awards went to Washington State, I believe, which is pretty exciting. So we had Cascadia Creamery won a Good Food Award for their Cloud Cap. Ferndale Farmstead won awards for their Fontina and for their Smoky Scamorza, and Samish Bay Creamery won an award for their Vosh. So that's very exciting, and we'll be obviously posting that on the website too. Another development with the website, which I'm also going to share, Lindsay mentioned the Cheesemaker Classifieds. Those are on our website. If you go to the WASCA website, you can see at the top we have a bar for Cheesemaker Classifieds. And Creamery in Oregon reached out because they have a vat pasteurizer for sale, and they'd like to offer it up to a cheesemaker who needs one. So we're hoping that if anybody needs some kind of equipment or anything that is relevant to their business, or has something that they no longer need, that we can use this as a tool to help help everybody save money and clear out, old equipment or whatever they have. So definitely if you have something you'd like to list, or if you have something you need, let us know so that we can share it on the Cheesemaker Classifieds part of the website. We
Courtney?
also, yes?
I just had a question on the trail map.
Sure.
Is it going to be updated each year? I'm not going to be able to make the this year's deadline because I'm not licensed on site yet. So I was just wondering how often it was going to be updated.
Yeah, we're definitely going to update it every year. So this is our 2021 map, and then we'll have a new one for next year. Hopefully, if everything goes according to plan. But yeah, we're planning to update it as often as we can, especially having a web version. Maybe we can even update it in 6 months. So it just kind of depends on what our graphic designer can do for us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. A couple more quick updates before we move on. We had a COVID-19 survey that the Education Committee put together to survey the Cheesemaker members to see how everybody is faring. We're almost a whole year into the pandemic in our state. So we're going to be sending that out again soon. We haven't had a lot of response to it, but if you could just take a few minutes and fill that out, that'll help the Education Committee to see sort of what everybody needs, how we can serve the members, and if there are some best practices that we can pull out of that to share with everybody to kind of enrich everybody's experience. I think that'll be a very helpful tool. So look for that survey and please fill it out. And then finally, events. In 2021, it does not look like we are really going to be scheduling any in-person events this year. I've heard that there might be a couple on the horizon in the fall, but that's very tentative at this point. We had originally planned a Washington cheese tasting class for February, but we had to put that on pause due to kind of low interest in it. I think cost was a factor and general Zoom fatigue, which is pretty understandable at this point. I am interested in pursuing some kind of cheesemaker tasting series later this year. If we can get a couple of cheesemakers lined up and we can get people signed up to take like an hour-long tasting class with them, see them in their creamery. The big thing would just be figuring out how to get the cheese to the people, the logistics of the shipping and, making sure that it gets to everybody is difficult, especially if we try to do a far-flung distribution within the state. So if anyone has ideas on how to do that or is interested in doing that later this year, I would love to talk about that. So definitely reach out. So now I am going to announce our new board of directors members. We had 3 new board of director members elected to the WASCA board this year. We had 3 open spots, so we're happy to have 3 people who are interested in volunteering to fill them. Those 3 folks are Lucas King from Evergreen Creamery, Jessica Gigot from Harmony Fields, and John Haugen from WSU Creamery. So congratulations to all of you on joining the board, and thank you for volunteering your service for the next 3 years. And thank you to all the voting members who took the time to participate by casting ballots. I think it was a very successful election. So thank you to everybody who helped make that possible. And I'm just going to throw this out there. If anyone is interested in serving on the board in the future, don't hesitate to reach out. We have 2 people whose terms are going to be coming to an end at the end of this year. So if it's something that you think you might be interested in doing in the future, definitely let us know, and the board can, talk to you about what that would entail and feel out your interest on that. So that is an option for future. Now I'm going to turn over the camera to our guest speaker. Megan is going to introduce her. So Megan.
Great. We're so excited today to have Gigi Berardi with us. She writes from Shaw Island, Washington, and teaches at the Huxley College of Environment in Bellingham, and also does eco-gastronomy intensive in Europe, working with Slow Foods' Carlo Petrini, and Mexico. She currently homesteads 25 acres with her family in the San Juans, where she milks sheep and makes about 10 varieties of hard cheese. Her study of cheesemaking in Europe includes affinage training with Laurent Mons, Mesa Mons. She maintains a popular food blog, and I'll pop that into the chat bar, and a vlog, YouTube, Food and Resilience. Her award-winning articles and reviews number over 400 and have appeared in newspapers, scientific journals, broadcast media. She's a Fulbright scholar, and her most recent work is Foodwise, which is a book I do endorse. It's super timely about our food systems and the way we eat. And the book has also been endorsed thought leaders, including Shalino.
Okay, I'm going to thank you for that. I'm going to share screen and anyway, thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. I'm really humbled to be here, and I've been actually rolling through people's websites as multitasking as we've had our meeting this year, just to get an appreciation of what it is that that we're all doing. And so my thought was to just make a few possibly provocative comments to stimulate discussion in terms of challenges and opportunities. But honestly, listening to everything that the organization is doing and everyone's stories, it seems that there's no threats to the businesses here. So I'm not sure, but I think a big message here also is that that's not necessarily what we're hearing in the press. So I'm going to also be talking about information too. Okay, and I had this very nice introduction. Thank you so much. I will say that I am an EMT, and I had my second COVID vaccine 2 days ago, and I really didn't think I was going to make it. So a warning, if and when you have that, plan to stay in bed. So as part of that, I want to say I wanted to incorporate a lot more images and references to our members, but you'll see that there's a very local geography to some of my remarks today. I will say that one of the things I do is I try and expose students to questions about what is a good food and how do we know what is a good food. And in this, for us, we're talking about cheeses. And so that's one of the things we do when we travel to Italy, but not everyone has that luxury. So how do you bring that experience and appreciation to consumers here? Here is a panna cotta, which is a slow food in the slow food restaurant made without a gelatin. And this is like a holy grail. To make a panna cotta, this kind of flan without gelatin. And so it kind of gets to the very crux of what is a whole food. It's really interesting with the different things that I do, how much I identify mostly as a sheep person and a cheese person. And, but always thinking about, again, cultivating customers, cultivating consumers. And here's one of my students who is helping me milk sheep. And I try and involve the students as much as possible. And in this particular last piece that I've done, the book Foodwise, what I tried to do was to capture an audience that normally would be at odds with each other. So here are some of the endorsers of my book, and they are crudely organized as, on the left here, meat eaters, and on the right here, fierce vegans, if you will. And to get that group, if you will, those groups of people talking to each other and agreeing about food is not not an easy task, but I really feel it's the kind of thing we have to do. That's why I have here, it's better to be open than right, because what we're trying to do is cultivate cheese consumers. So, so this is the acronym that I use in the book. And I actually feel that it is really a good response to, I don't know, presidential politics as well. And that is to fall back on WISE, whole, being informed, asking questions about sustainability, and then experience. And really what we're trying to do is give our consumers the experience of cheese. And we usually do that by telling stories associated with the actual tasting. So I've been looking at so many articles about threats to the cheese industry and artisan cheese industry recently. And I'm sure you're aware of these. To my mind, the response is increasing resilience, and we do that by building adaptive capacity. And the way I would suggest is by telling stories, by questioning food beliefs and the science behind them, in this case, particularly around cheese. So I myself have had to tell a different story moving from an academic platform. And then what I did was I actually made a vlog, a video for every night in lockdown. So I started in March and I ended on December 31st when I read the final paragraph of FoodWise. So what I would do is read a paragraph from my book or so, and then bring in links to relevant news stories about what it is that we believe about what's going on in the pandemic for food, for education, and that was then. And what is now is a different landing page, a different platform, which is going to speak to TikTok generation and as well as older folks as well. And it's, I think, something we all have to do when we have a product to sell. So telling stories. So here's an example, and having experiences. So this is a blue cheese, and it's a cheese I make with students. And in this case, what we're trying to do, of course, is encourage specific kind of microbial growth within the paste, within the cheese. And once students have had that experience and realize how difficult it is, they are certainly going to appreciate artisan blue cheeses here. Here are Whatcom Blue. Certainly anyone who's had the experience of going to the American Cheese Society annual meeting and being exposed to the experience of 7,000 cheeses or 1,000 cheeses at a time, and also other cultured dairy products, not just cheeses, can talk about that that experience. So storytelling helps guide the production and marketing of cheese. You're all very facile with this. I've been looking at websites, as I mentioned, over the last few days. This is from the WASCA, website, and there was mention of this today. Some of us here have recently attended the Dairy Sheep Association of North America annual meetings, and a lot of it was storytelling. And here, this is from a story about cheese making in Croatia. And you would think, and maybe it's true, there was a lot of scientific as well as poetic evidence to suggest that it all started in Croatia. But it was fascinating, fascinating stuff, and I will remember that next time I see Croatian cheese. And this is from our website, and you can just see here, just a beautiful choice of words. Your choice to buy local cheese will make the difference in keeping our small creameries open. So there's this little dance going on between producers and consumers. Producers produce what they think consumers will buy. That's how we develop markets. And consumers buy what producers make available. So whenever I have a cheese tasting with my students or I'm giving a talk elsewhere, I always try and have a selection of our membered cheeses here. And all of that, as you well know, with the tastings that you do and make available, is really key to cultivating consumers. This is one of my Manchego cheeses. But consumers also give feedback to the producers about what they want, most directly through what they purchase, but also through advocacy. What consumers want is in turn influenced by many factors. Here, by the way, is very small scale micro creamery mozzarella making. And I do this with the students. And as you well know, in making cheeses, that it's important to be accurate, it's important to be on time, it's important to be timely, it's important to watch the time, it's important to focus. And these are really difficult challenges for students. And especially given what we're going through now in terms of the mode of delivery of classes. But the result can be very satisfying. And one of the classes I teach is the art and science of cheese. I teach this class with an ecotoxicologist, and now it is completely online. But the students are very much having the experience of cheese making. So food beliefs. So this is really one of the main themes in my book and recent work, and that is challenging beliefs. But first we need to know where they come from. And so they come from ideas around foods we ate growing up, what advertising drums into our heads, what our friends do. Interesting, there's some work which would suggest that from our friends, it's not really so much values, but behaviors. And a lot of that, and some of that includes buying behaviors. Fad diets and diet gurus, which is where anti-dairy, anti-fat comes from. Nutritional science. And now we have recently, I don't know if you see this or are aware, but I've vlogged on this several times recently, is the low fat, I know not surprising, recommendations, the dietary guidelines for Americans. And they are not eschewing dairy necessarily, but if you're eating dairy, make it low fat. And reports on farming, hunger, environmental problems. And this is really what I mean here, that we want to change this story, which is what I hear a lot from my students, you know, cheese is killing babies, to cheese is eating whole fats. And these are the things my students are concerned with, especially these fierce food beliefs are what we want to take a look at. Once we've got these beliefs about eating meat, eating fat, they're hard to change. They're difficult to change. There's confirmation bias, anyway, for all sorts of reasons. And advertising is part of this, but a big part of this is the information that's out there. And I don't know if I would call this fake science as much as popularized science. And health. I really tried, health is problematic, the word healthy, because how that in the United States, at least, that almost always means low fat or no fat. And then we don't distinguish between monounsaturated and polyunsaturated and saturated fats. Well, polyunsaturated fat, processed fats is what we're left with. So I tried not to use the word health at all in my book, which was very difficult. And the publishers really wanted me to use health in the title. And I just wanted to avoid that because it goes immediately to low fat. What's interesting is if you look here, and ads from the 1930s and 40s and 50s, which were playing off the dietary guidelines, the USDA dietary guidelines at the time. Chocolate milk, you can see that milk was very much part of the guidelines. And it's interesting to look at the 1902, like early 20th century USDA guidelines, where butter and lard and fat was very much part of the guidelines. But it really begs the question of how did we get there and get to these beliefs? Yeah, I'm going to show you the person behind the Mediterranean diet. We're getting there, Ansel Keys, in a little bit. So, sharing stories, telling stories. So here, this is Ferndale Farmstead. So this is they're about seed to cheese. You know, that is the story that they're telling, or an operation inspired by twin girls, a family operation to produce a real blue cheese, Wacom Blue. This is from Apple Farms. So this is the local element I was referring to, Wacom County, from Apple Farms, and the kind of salient pieces of the story in blue there. Writing stories that are authentic and consistent and plausible, and then conveying them. So experience is really part of the story. And I talk about this more elsewhere, about the experience economy. And people are really looking for, they want to buy the experience of local production. And this experience can be gained firsthand by growing food or cooking it or fermenting milk yourself, or by getting to know local cheesemakers and becoming familiar with different aspects of the operation, or information. And information is secondhand experience. It's very important. So reading, hearing, seeing stories about cheese. So there's some research out there. Some of you may be familiar with this. Consumers who buy locally produced cheese are not merely filling their grocery needs, but are motivated by other reasons. A big one being the story of the food itself. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Mother Noella, the cheese nun, but this is an image from the New Yorker, the 2002 article called Raw Faith. This is 4 years before the Cheese Nun video was made. She became a cause celeb, an interesting story for wooden vats, wooden paddles. And the story is she stood up to the FDA. She did not, and she's quick to say that really wasn't her thing, what she did. But what she did do was she got a PhD in microbiology that she brought back, that kind of knowledge of how important it was looking at the ecology of these microorganisms and the diversity. So that is her thing. Her message is about the importance of diversity of microorganisms, and specific microorganisms to specific cheese and to specific caves, in particular where the cheese is aged. The cheese that caused such excitement was this Bethlehem cheese, is what it's called. So there's no cultures added. Instead, the cultures are coming from here. And I had the privilege of making the cheese. This is Sister Teresa Benedicta, who has taken over because now Mother Noella is on Shaw Island, and has moved from the Abbey at Regina Laudis. So she is a big advocate for diversity in the cheese making progress. This is a good story. People will come to the Abbey and they're contemplative nuns. They're practically cloistered, and they won't leave until they see her. That's how powerful the story of her and her cheese making is. So consumers want the higher quality. And this is what I mean by what is a good food, which I really work in many different ways with my students and in my writing. So what is quality? And what is a good food? Carlo Petrini of the slow food movement said a good food is good. It's good to taste. It's good to eat. It's clean. Environmentally, it's fair. It's fair to workers. It's fair to all the organisms that are involved in the production of cheese. Okay. Many associate quality with freshness or absence of what they perceive to be a contaminant, but also what it is not produced at an industrial scale level. So it's probably hard to see, but in this image was taken in near Strasbourg. I had a sabbatical in 2018 and 2019 in Dornach, Switzerland. This is very close to there, and here and in any cheese shop, you'll often see the cave in which the cheese was aged. I gave a talk at the Daughters of Norway recently, and really there's only 5 kinds of cheese. I know it's hard to wrap our heads around that in Norway that are sold, that are produced, and one of them is the caramelized Brunwurst cheese, which is the very sweet cheese. I think that part of what we need to do is understand the science behind the story we are selling. And challenges are made worse by fraudulent, then popularized science, as in the classic work on fat and heart disease. That is showing the relationship between intake of saturated fat, which dairy products are high in, and heart disease. And I don't know if any of you are tired and or know the story of Ansel Keys, but this correlation basically was the result of cherry-picked data. And here he is. He also authored a very popular book on the Mediterranean diet, which is where that comes from. But where does that get us? And now there's a backlash. Where it gets us is a fear of fat and then a love of hidden sugar, as evidenced by the snack well phenomenon. And people are just chowing down on the snack wells because they're low fat, but they're also very high in sugar and also processed fats. So I think the story we need to tell is about whole fats. That's the W in WISE, and what it is that people are getting when they are eating dairy products as really good sources of saturated fat, although there are some plant sources as well. And then there's so much interesting research, and I know we've got a number of academics here on the call today and in the organization, but I try and look for information worldwide, and one of the people I follow, and if I can, invite them in to speak in my classes in Europe, and Toon Bars from the University of Kassel is one of those researchers who has done some very interesting research looking at the fatty acid profile of cheeses dependent on the feed source. And for example, you get interesting ideas that it's not about organic, it's not about or conventional so much, it's about the grazing, the amount of pasture that the animals are exposed to in terms of the fatty acid profile. It's very provocative. Here's Neil's yard. Sorry for the person who was going to have the internship. I've been a patron of this shop at Neil's Yard since 1980, And I mentioned these places where, the caves in which the cheese is aged is mentioned. Here's an interesting story. So on the Amalfi Coast, where a lot of Italian cheeses there's a lot of PDO cheeses there, in particular mozzarella and different kinds of mozzarella. Here is someone making the mozzarella cheese using just his hands in that super, super hot water, very different from what we see at Ferndale Farmstead, for example. All right, thank you. And I'm going to share the cheesy moment, but here I am after one of our cheese tastings for my Art and Science of Cheese class. This is not what I'm doing anymore. It was extremely challenging teaching a cheese class, making cheese, not teaching. That was not challenging, but making cheese with 20 students, 6 students, 8 students, 14 students, and you know how cheese is made, obviously, which is you do something for a few minutes and then you wait, and you do something for a few minutes and then you wait. And so basically what everyone was on their cell phones while I was, running around getting everything ready. So now the class is online, and I have to say, this was my biggest success last year, which is I actually tried working with students, teaching them about aged cheeses, hard cheeses on their own, online, if you will. And we made a jack cheese, and which was pressed using tomato cans, processed tomato, anyway, bottles of water, and aged in a refrigerator. So aged in a refrigerator, I told them it was possible. And for the assignment, they submitted pictures of the cheese making process at the various stages. But they would have to watch the humidity, and they would have to use towels of some sort and just keep the humidity levels up. And sure enough, 2 months later, a student sent me these pictures here of her jack cheese, which is a beautiful cheese. And that is exactly what she did. Probably the most interesting thing is that the student still was in touch with me after 2 months, because basically the students are done with Zoom teaching. And I was very excited to get this image and to see the time and care that student put into this. But rest assured that student will be buying your cheeses too. That student will have a huge appreciation of what actually goes into the process, and will not blink an eye at $20 a pound or more, $30 a pound for a cheese when she is gainfully employed. All right, so that is all I have. And yeah, I will happy to take questions. And oops, and stop share. Oh, chat. Yeah. So I don't know if there's any questions, if anyone wants to. Oh, yeah, okay, thanks, Rhonda. Put anything in chat. I would just say, yeah, Gigi, gigi.berardi@wwu.edu. I bet I can type that. And if you, I write and speak a lot, and I would like to write and speak about your stories too. As I was putting this presentation together, and I was looking at, all my images on the cloud, I was shocked at how much my identity, me, a little academic person, was locked into being with my sheep and making cheese and teaching others to make cheese. I really was. And so, and And so part of what I try and do is to take that emotion and that, which is what I felt, and passion, and kind of parlay that into stories so that we can get an appreciation, so that consumers can have an appreciation for all that goes into artisan cheese making or something other than non-industrial scale cheese making. So I have up to 15 sheep. Most of them are lambs. Sometimes it depends. I hand milk 3 or 4 sheep. And the sheep are East Frisian / Tunis. And the Tunis are beautiful and they're wonderful mothers. And they're very strong. They're very capable of nurturing triplets too. And then I work with Samish Bay. They get a lot of our lambs. So let's see. So that's yeah. All I have.
All right, thanks so much, Gigi. We really appreciate your time, and that was, I think, a great reminder to all of us that storytelling is so important. And that's one of the goals that we have this year too with WASCA, is to help tell more of your stories in a variety of ways. Oh, Gorby just asked a question. In the story of American cheese, what do you find make our region particularly compelling?
Oh, are you kidding? So, well, do we have a number of cheesemakers east of the Cascades in the organization? Okay, well, anyway.
Not too many.
Okay, as a geographer, we're talking about geography, right? So, oh my gosh. So in the Pacific Northwest, this is the garden, which is what I tried to tell in the book. This is the garden of eating. This is our climate. And for dairy, I know we've got a number of dairy association. Our climate for dairy is terrific. And so the stories that I would tell, have to do with, and I know not everyone not everyone pastures their animals in terms of the sources of milk, or for people who have farmstead cheeses. But if you do, if well managed, the grass is amazing. The climate is amazing. Washington State has, I know this isn't the story, but it's for us, 7% or more of food purchases is direct sales. That's crazy. That's very high. That's very high in Washington State. So the consumer base, couldn't be better. So yeah, I mean, I would work, the Pacific Northwest. I would work that we've got a very intact ecosystem, complicated ecosystem. Honestly, I would bring in the salmon and say, we, as our dairy people here know, we manage the dairy operations beautifully. We're all about protecting the salmon. We just, it's an amazing ecosystem. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to do this. But those of you who have a source of milk that that's kind of pasture based, I would get out that research of Tone Bars, but there's many others, and I would talk about the meaning of, what happens when we're kind of eating that grass. That's I think that would be part of the story.
Cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for responding.
I think Patrick had a point.
Yeah, well, I just have a quick question, and you may have addressed this already, and I apologize if I missed it. But what's your best short take on sort of the argument out there against our industry, against dairy in general, in terms of global warming and environmental degradation? It seems to be this is very top of mind in the public arena, and I'm certainly not opposed to a plant-based approach to eating personally in many ways, but I'm also not I don't relish the idea that this is going to impact our industry going forward, and I I just wondered if you had I know it's a bigger question, probably merits a longer discussion, but curious what your take is.
Yeah, I'll try and do this in a couple sentences, and know that my audience is the toughest students. They are take no prisoners on this. I mean, it would go something like this. That, you know, the first thing I would do, and I tried to do this in the book, it was very tricky, but anyway, the first thing I would do is look at sources of emissions. And then I get like kind of like a reasonable, accurate, you know, story on sources of emissions. Then I would work the industrial, then I would work the CAFO thing. I would say, I would look at industrialized operations where you have confined livestock. And I would, I mean, in particular, we're talking about feedlots, right? Because manure is managed in, you know, 600 cow dairies where the animals aren't going out on pasture. It's managed very, very carefully. In Northwest Washington, at least, it's managed carefully. So then we got to make that distinction too. But I would really work. I would the whole CAFO thing. Then, and I have to tell you, I have tried to kind of as an academic look at the animal manure as I've been able to observe it in my own pastures here, and the kind of ruminant and what happens in terms of degradation and kind of rate of degradation and what that looks like under different kind of climatic regimes. That's very, very complicated. But before you get into that, I think I would just stick with the industrialized operations where you have a ton of confined animals, and that's really what people are talking about. Then, of course, I would work it from the other end, which is like ruminants is a good use of pasture. Pasture is a good use of land. And frankly, I would like to see pasture, as we're talking about Whatcom County, so non-compliant with the Growth Management Act in Washington State. But anyway, then I would say, what do you want, condos? So you know what I'm saying? Let's say I would approach it from the other end. What's the alternative to? That's how I would do it, but very respectfully, not as pointed as I did it just now.
That's great, thank you. Do you get into the discussion of carbon sequestering in proper agricultural
That would be it.
methods?
That would be it. That's what I was talking about. It's hard to find the research on that and what ruminant and where and all of
Right.
that. That would be it, Patrick. It would be the carbon sequestering, you know, how that works on farms, and that's a
Great.
good approach.
Okay, thank you.
We have just a few more minutes left. So are there any other questions for Gigi, or any other general questions or discussion that anyone would like to bring up in our last few minutes? All right, well, you know, thank you so much, Gigi, again, for speaking to us today and giving us some things to think about. Thank you to all of you for being here, for joining the meeting, for giving us your time and your support. We really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who spoke today, which was all of you in the very beginning. So looking forward to serving you all this year. If you have any ideas, if you have any needs, if you just want to chat, I'd love to hear from everybody. Please definitely feel free to reach out. Let me know what I can do to support you. Reach out to the board if you need anything. We have our 3 new board members and we need to put them to work. So thank you so much, everyone. It's been a pleasure to have you all here today.
I just want to say thank you, Courtney. It's really exciting to have an executive director. So I just am settling in that, oh, wow, there's a director here for this meeting. So it's really wonderful to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm excited to be here for that. All right, then the meeting
Nice job.
is
Well done, Courtney.
Oh, thanks. Meeting is adjourned, and have a great weekend, everybody.
You too.
And if the new board